Halloween weekend had arrived, and this year it fell on a Saturday. My mom always took decorating and handing out candy very seriously, almost as if she were competing with the neighbors to have the most popular house for trick-or-treaters. Living on a corner in a typical suburban neighborhood, we decorated both the front and side yards. Since Halloween was on a Saturday, kids began trick-or-treating earlier in the day. Unfortunately, the weather was cold and cloudy with rain in the forecast. My mom didn't seem to grasp that this might explain the lack of trick-or-treaters. Instead, when a few skipped our house, she assumed it was due to insufficient decorations. She insisted I fetch the remaining decoration containers from the attic. I protested, but she was adamant, so I reluctantly obliged. The attic door was in the hallway upstairs, directly above my bedroom. After pulling down the door and climbing the ladder, I found only a couple of Halloween containers left. I opened one, deemed it satisfactory, and began dragging it towards the attic door. As I carefully slid the container down the ladder, I heard a strange cracking sound from the opposite side of the attic. It was an attic after all, so I brushed it off as nothing unusual. Once I brought the decorations downstairs, my mom and I set them up in the front yard. The wind picked up, and it felt like rain could start at any moment. Disappointed by the low turnout of trick-or-treaters, my mom lamented her efforts, especially since she had prepared homemade goodie bags filled with various candies. As the day wore on, I retreated to my room to play video games while my mom handed out candy to a few visitors. Then, it started to rain, which further dampened the spirit of the evening. While gaming, I heard a crack from above, in the attic. Although not unusual, this marked the second strange sound I'd noticed from up there. The rain continued, eventually turning into a thunderstorm, perfect for Halloween night. As a teenager, I often chose gaming over going out with friends, and this night was no different. I stayed up late, past my parents' bedtime, still engrossed in my game. Suddenly, I heard footsteps above me in the attic. I wondered if my mom had gone up there to put things away, but it was late. I listened intently, but the sound stopped. After a couple of minutes, I paused my game and ventured into the hallway, only to find the attic door open. Then I heard noises from downstairs, the sound of items being moved around in the kitchen. My heart raced. I tiptoed to my parents' room and quietly opened the door, confirming they were both fast asleep. Stomach twisted in fear. I shook my dad awake and whispered, "There's someone in the house." He immediately sat up, startled. I explained that someone was in the kitchen, possibly hiding in the attic. My dad, not a large or confrontational man, kept a police baton under his bed for emergencies. But I doubted he ever expected to use it. He told me to stay quiet and quietly went to check the hallway. When he returned, he whispered that he had seen someone climbing into the attic. He locked the bedroom door and called 911. My mom, now awake, joined us as we all tried to remain as quiet as possible. The waiting began. My dad went downstairs to open the front door for the police. Meanwhile, the attic door had closed. The officers arrived and searched the house, discovering a disheveled man hiding behind the wall of containers in the attic. It turned out that he had entered through our unlocked front door the day before, seeking a place to sleep. He had even brought one of our blankets and had a jar of peanut butter with him. The whole incident was unsettling, and I often wondered how things might have turned out if my father or I had confronted him instead of calling the police. My parents chose not to press charges. Fast forward to when I was 18, I decided to throw a Halloween party at my parents' house. It was a closed invite, meaning I told guests not to bring strangers, a rule my parents had set. They were away that weekend, allowing me to host the party, but I promised to leave the house cleaner than I found it. I invited around 50 people, and about 40 showed up. The festivities began at 6 p.m. just as it was getting dark. The party was split between the backyard and the first floor. My parents had left me money for refreshments, and I assured them it would be a non-alcoholic gathering, though though I suspected they didn't fully believe me. A friend brought his DJ equipment, and the party was lively by nightfall. Everyone seemed to know each other, and I recognized most of the guests. As the night progressed, one of my friends emerged from the house, asking about a guy in a skeleton bodysuit inside. Not recalling anyone in such a costume, I headed inside to investigate. In the kitchen, a few people mentioned seeing someone snooping around. Concerned, I looked for the man and found him walking down the stairs. I approached him and asked who he was. He replied, "Mike, I was using the bathroom upstairs." His deep voice sounded older, and his stocky frame made me uneasy. When I asked who invited him, he mentioned a Tom, someone I didn't know. I requested he take off his mask, but he ignored me and walked past toward the front door, leaving me suspicious. After checking the upstairs rooms and finding everything intact, I locked the front door and shared my concerns with friends. Eventually, the party began to wind down around midnight, with most guests leaving and a few close friends helping clean up. Once everyone had gone, I got ready for bed. My friend Vinny stayed over on the couch. After brushing my teeth and changing into pajamas, I joined him in the living room. My little sister, who was 14, was asleep upstairs, having opted out of the party. Vinny and I were trying to keep quiet when we both heard noises from upstairs, which seemed to wake her. Expecting her to go to the bathroom, I was confused when I didn't hear her door open. I knocked on her door. No response. I opened it slightly and saw she was still asleep. Where were those sounds coming from? I then realized my parents' door was ajar. When I checked, I was startled to see the man in the skeleton bodysuit standing inside. Instead of panicking, I composed myself and quietly closed the door. I rushed downstairs to inform Vinny that the earlier intruder was in the house. He called 911 while I returned to my sister's room, waking her and instructing her to be quiet as we headed downstairs together. We met Vinny in the kitchen by the back door, then escaped to the backyard. We made our way to our neighbor's house and rang the bell multiple times. The neighbor let us stay until the police arrived, but before they could reach our house, the intruder escaped through my parents' bedroom window. I noticed the window was open and the closet door ajar where my dad kept his safe. It was evident that the intruder had intended to access the safe, suggesting he knew about it. We never discovered who the man was, but it was clear he had some knowledge of my party. My sister eventually told our parents about the incident, and that was the last party I was allowed to host at their house. In 2016, at 15 years old, I wanted to make my last Halloween trick-or-treating memorable. My mom, being laid back, allowed me to turn it into a multi-day event. The day before Halloween, I had a sleepover with friends Davis and Zach, skipped school on Halloween, trick-or-treated with them, and then had a sleepover with my girlfriend Amber. My newly renovated basement became our hangout spot, although the long hallway leading to it had a broken light switch, creating a creepy atmosphere. After enjoying some cookies my mom baked, we settled in to watch movies. We started with the original Scream and planned to watch Paranormal Activity next. Just as I unpaused the movie, the motion detector light in the backyard turned on, flooding the room with light. After waiting for it to turn off, I resumed the film, but the light activated again. Curious, I asked Davis and Zach to join me in checking it out. By the time we reached the back door, the light had turned off again, and we saw nothing unusual. Returning to the den, we decided to abandon the movie and just chat on our phones. Hours later, I was still awake when the motion light activated for the fourth time. Tired, I assumed it was just kids playing pranks, but a nagging feeling urged me to check the yard again. As I approached the back door, I heard a twig snap and felt a chill run down my spine. Amber and I passed the motion light, which didn't activate this time. I was only a few feet from the generator when I spotted him, the same man in the clown mask lurking beside the shed. We locked eyes for a moment, and then he lunged toward us. I dashed inside and slammed the door shut behind Amber. We hurried to the basement, hiding behind the bar as we heard a loud slam from upstairs. Amber, too frightened to speak, began texting 911 explaining the situation. Minutes felt like hours until the basement door creaked open. Footsteps echoed down the stairs and into the hallway. I covered Amber's mouth, knowing we had to stay silent. The footsteps stopped near us, and I prepared to defend us with a beer bottle if necessary. After what seemed like an eternity, we heard police sirens outside. Seizing the moment, I jumped up and charged toward the intruder, swinging the bottle. I tripped and fell, realizing too late that my swing had barely affected him. He looked down at me, then bolted up the stairs and out the back door. I rushed to let the police in, informing them of the intruder's escape route. Unfortunately, they never caught him. To this day, I feel uneasy going into that basement alone. Looking back, I'm grateful that we are safe. The memory of that clown mask staring down at me as I lay on the floor will forever haunt me.